Hey there, thank you so much for starting your Monday off with us. I'm Veronica Cruz. Always good to see you. Here's what's happening right now on Scripps News Live.
We have to go! We have to go!
You'll walk down some of these streets and you don't even recognize which street you're on anymore. It's just like all this just chaos and mayhem.
Whoosh, it was coming down the hill like I watched 2 churches burn.
Come at this like an ohana, because it's going to be, in the short term, heartbreaking. In the very long term, we'll rebuild together.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
A potential 4th indictment against former President Trump could come as early as this week.
It would be irresponsible to not prepare for the worst.
I finally feel like I'm going to be okay, and I feel supported.
But we got to make sure more veterans know that they can apply. That's why I wanted to flag 2 big PACT Act deadlines coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We begin this hour in Hawaii with the latest in the fatal wildfires. 96 people dead in what is now the deadliest wildfire the U.S. has seen in the last 100 years. Hundreds remain missing. Crews are working around the clock right now to search for them. And the Maui police chief says cadaver dogs have searched only 3% of the affected area. Let's go live now to our meteorologist Scott Withers, who's in Kula, which is about 35 miles from Lahaina, the historic town that has seen incredible damage. Scotty, what more can you tell us about the response so far?
Well, Veronica, we've still got wildfires burning here on the island of Maui. As you said, I am in Kula. Look behind me here. One whipped right through this resort, destroying this cabin here. Fortunately, no injuries or fatalities with this wildfire. It's about 60% contained. But on the other end of the island, out there in Lahaina, that's where the search and rescue efforts and the recovery efforts are really focused right now. And the police chief here in Maui telling me that they are going as fast as they can. They are using the cadaver dogs, but they have to do it with respect because these are their friends and family members that they're searching for.
Hollow shells of former homes, twisted metal, piles of ash.
You'll walk down some of these streets and you don't even recognize which street you're on anymore. It's just like all this just chaos and mayhem.
The chaos trapping residents on those streets, fearing for their lives.
We have to go! We have to go!
This family surviving the horror, jumping into the ocean, waiting for help as the fire rages around them.
Whoosh, whoosh, it was coming down the hill like I watched 2 churches burn. I watched the Salvation Army burn.
Joseph Bilodeau rode out of town on his scooter as the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history incinerated his home.
There's nothing to go back to. There's nothing to dig through, sift through. It's just ashes.
Joseph and residents throughout Lahaina say they had no warning. The government acknowledges none of the 80 emergency sirens on the island were activated. There's an investigation to find out why. But there was a warning almost a decade ago. A study by the Hawaiian Wildfire Management Organization found Lahaina was in extreme risk from wind-driven wildfires. The fire last week started near the water plant, exactly where the study warned there'd be an extreme risk. FEMA estimates the wildfire damaged or destroyed 2,200 homes, another 500 businesses and buildings, more than 2,000 acres charred.
It's going to also be a natural disaster that's going to take an incredible amount of time to recover from.
Recovery crews slowly and solemnly walking through the burned-out shells of homes, trying to find the remains of those who couldn't escape. Cadaver dogs taking short breaks before heading back out into the disaster zone.
You can only go as fast as that animal can go. So we're bringing in more. We're going to go fast, but we're only going to go as fast as we can go.
The police chief has asked for another dozen dogs to help speed up the search, which has only cleared a small percentage of the town.
That is going to be a very long time before tourism returns, of course, to anywhere near the levels it was in West Long Island.
Thousands of tourists fleeing at the airport, those planning vacations being urged to cancel. The island can't support them. FEMA estimating it's going to cost almost $6 billion and years to rebuild.
And we have some breaking news now that no one here on the island of Maui wants to hear, but we need to focus. Take a look at the satellite map there. You can see we got two systems, one just kind of to the center of your screen moving to the west. That is now Tropical Storm Greg. It is spinning on the same path as Hurricane Dora did. It's going to stay south of the Hawaiian Islands, so it shouldn't cause that big a problem. But look over by Southern California, the Mexican peninsula there, Baja, Mexico, and Baja, California. You can see we've got now, this is Hurricane Fernanda. That has just been upgraded to a powerful Category 4 hurricane. It is on the same path. You might remember Dora was also a Category 4 hurricane. Same path as Dora, going to go straight across. It'll stay south of the Hawaiian Islands, but so did Dora. She was strong enough to spin winds up to the Hawaiian Islands. By the time this gets here south of the islands late this week into the beginning of next week, it's projected right now to lose some of its strength. It really needs to. Veronica, these islands do not need any more strong winds or any more rains on top of what they're trying to deal with the search and recovery efforts. Veronica.
All right, so going back to what you were just saying to us, Scotty, because we were looking at the satellite and we saw two different storm systems spinning. One, you are saying, is now a hurricane. The other one is still a tropical storm. Could the other one potentially turn into a hurricane? And how big of a threat are these two storm systems right now?
Okay, so Tropical Storm Greg, that's the one that's closest to Hawaii right now, but still south of it. That's just going to become, it's not going to do anything. It's going to lose strength and become a depression again. But the Hurricane Fernanda, that literally just got upgraded here in the last hour or two. It went from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane, so it just blew up in size and in strength. It is going to move across some really cold water, so that's going to help it lose some of its power. But it's on the same track that Dora had last week, so it may retain some of that power. We want to get it down below tropical storm level by the time it gets over here near the Hawaiian Islands, because we don't need it spinning up any of the winds like Dora did. We're going to have to wait and see, because at this point in time, this storm is as strong as Dora was last week.
Yeah, it'll be the last thing that the folks there in Maui need right now. Scotty Withers reporting live from Kula, Hawaii. Scotty, thank you so much. So like we've been saying, it's going to take a significant amount of time and money to help the people of Maui recover. Our parent company Scripps is supporting that effort through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan that QR code right there that you see on the bottom of your screen in order to donate and help make a difference for the people there. Developing now, all eyes on Georgia and a possible fourth indictment for former President Donald Trump. The Fulton County grand jury that will make that decision will hear from at least two more witnesses tomorrow. One is the state's former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. The other is independent journalist George Cheedy. Our Jay Struberg has the timeline for us.
January 2nd, 2021, Fani Willis was on day 2 of her new job as Fulton County District Attorney when the now infamous phone call was made.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
That phone call from then President Trump to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger asking him to find just enough votes to turn the state from blue to red prompted the newly appointed DA to launch a historic investigation into possible election interference by a sitting president. A little more than a year later, on January 20th, 2022, Willis requested a special grand jury be created to help her with the investigation. She also reveals many witnesses refused to cooperate with her probes. In May, 26 people were seated on the panel, and over the next 6 months, they heard testimony from 75 witnesses, including Raffensperger himself, Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, and South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, many of them going to court to try and avoid testifying, but ultimately were ordered to appear. The panel finishing its work in January of this year and turning in a final report to Judge Robert McBurney. While most of the report remains sealed, a portion of it was made public in February, in which the panel admitted it believed some of the witnesses lied on the stand. And in an unusual move, the jury foreman conducted a high-profile media tour alluding to what the jury decided.
We definitely heard a lot about former President Trump, and we definitely discussed him a lot in the room. And I will say that when this list comes out, you wouldn't there are no major plot twists waiting for you. Especially if they've been following the investigation, I can't see it being a shocker.
In the spring, District Attorney Willis started preparing for a decision on criminal indictments by sending a letter to the county sheriff asking for extra security between July 11th and September 1st. Then in May, said in a letter that most of her staff would be working remotely during the first 3 weeks of August. And in July, 2 new grand juries were impaneled, one of which heard the evidence in the case and would make recommendations about who should be indicted.
That was Scripps news anchor Jay Struberg reporting there for us from Atlanta. So if you drive by the Fulton County Courthouse in Atlanta right now, you will see orange barricades. Lots and lots of law enforcement surrounding the area. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has said that charges against former President Trump could be decided by Friday. So security in the area remains high right now in anticipation of Trump's possible 4th indictment. Let's get right out to national correspondent Alexa Liaco live for us outside of that courthouse. So Alexa, tell us more about how they've been preparing for this potential 4th indictment against former President Donald Trump.
Well, Veronica, barricades have been up here for weeks. Streets have been blocked off. There is law enforcement presence from law enforcement agencies, not only here in Atlanta, the Fulton County Sheriff, but also police departments outside of the city. In a brief moment of levity, one of our producers heard the police officers saying, hey, at least we're going to get a lot of overtime here from working so many hours around the clock, because they're going to be out here until and after possible charges come out against the former president. And today we saw a little bit of a stress test on that safety operation. We had some protesters come down here. They were protesting something different, but the law enforcement officers that were out here quickly moved them away from this barricaded area. Everything remained peaceful and very calm, but they did move through here and police quickly got them out. But we did talk to an expert and asked, is there an extra security concern around this Georgia case? And here's what she had to say.
In Atlanta, security is tight outside the Fulton County Courthouse as the nation sits waiting to hear what charges the former president could face.
I think that it would be irresponsible to not prepare for the worst.
Andra Gillespie, a law professor at Emory University in Atlanta, says the security here looks similar to what we've seen for previous indictments, and she hopes the response will be the same here too.
There are some people who show up. There have been shouting matches. But thankfully, we have not seen violent outbursts. And so I pray that that is the same thing that we're going to experience here.
In Atlanta, the road in front of the courthouse building is closed to traffic. Orange barricades and metal barriers line the street. And officers from both the sheriff's and marshal's offices have a visible presence. Bomb-sniffing dogs also came to check media cars. So far, no reports of protests or violence, but many believe that could change if or when charges come down. But why? First, DA Fani Willis and her team have received numerous threats from the public. So many, Willis warned her prosecutors to, quote, stay alert. Then, last Tuesday, Trump himself lashed out at Willis at a campaign rally, calling her a, quote, young racist in Atlanta. Gillespie says this is similar language used against special counsel Jack Smith and New York DA Alvin Bragg.
That, in some ways, is the X factor. That's the unknown. That when you have a president who makes intemperate comments against a prosecutor who is prosecuting a case against them, that might actually incite somebody to do something that would be ill-considered. And so we pray that that isn't the case.
One difference in Georgia, the Fulton County Sheriff says he is prepared to take a mugshot of the former president, which Gillespie says could draw a reaction from the public.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who gather there. I think the big question is, do you see counter protests? And I think that there would be lots of disincentives for people to have counter protests. I think people who, support the possibility of an indictment against President Trump are not necessarily going to express that by actually showing up in person and putting themselves in a position where there would be a counter protest.
And despite Georgia being a state with more relaxed gun laws and a large number of voters who may arrive to support the former president, Gillespie believes law enforcement in Atlanta is prepared.
So even if you were in a state with very strict gun laws, you should still do everything that Georgia, Florida, Washington, D.C., and New York have done to try to mitigate the possibility that there would be some type of violent outburst. It's just the most responsible thing to do.
And one other development is that now Fani Willis has security at her personal home, of course, as well as at her workplace here. But again, things have been peaceful out here, have been quiet as we await potential charges against the former president, a fourth possible indictment on the way any moment now. Veronica, back to you.
And Alexa, as we look behind you, we see that there are 2 police cars there, and obviously we've seen the orange barricades. It looks like, though traffic may be blocked to cars, maybe it's not blocked to pedestrians. Have you seen anybody carrying a sign or demonstrating at all?
We've seen actually a lot of demonstrators, but they're here protesting other things. We covered a little bit the protests about Cop City in Atlanta, this police training center that a lot of people are against, that the city is working to build. People were actually here protesting that. Nobody was here talking about Donald Trump, the possible indictment. So it looks like other groups may be here trying to take advantage of all the media cameras that are here and get their voices heard. But so far, in regards to the former president, pretty quiet as far as protests are concerned.
Interesting. All right. Alexa Lianco reporting live from the Fulton County Courthouse there in Atlanta. Alexa will be checking back with you. Thank you. So you can take a deeper dive on this story and much more online. You can check us out at Scripps News on X, formerly known as Twitter, also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. So it is the key to building wealth for most Americans, but home ownership is especially challenging right now for one age group. Coming up, why millennials have been struggling. That's next.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
If you have this, and you get this, you could end up with this. Unexpected out-of-pocket costs, which for those on Medicare or soon to be, is a good reason to take charge of your health care. So consider this, an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare. Why? Because Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. And what it doesn't pay for, like deductibles and copays, could really add up, even thousands of dollars a year. Medicare supplement plans help by paying some of what Medicare doesn't, and making your out-of-pocket costs a lot more predictable. Call United Healthcare today and ask for your free decision guide. Learn more about plan options and rates to fit your needs. Now, if you like this, greater freedom, you'll love that Medicare supplement plans have no networks and no referrals needed. See any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S., as long as they accept Medicare patients. These types of plans also give you more flexibility when traveling in the U.S. Your plan goes with you, anywhere you go in the country. Even better, these are the only plans of their kind, endorsed by AARP. Call United Healthcare today for your free decision guide. So if you have this and want less out-of-pocket costs and more peace of mind, consider adding this, an AARP Medicare Supplement Plan. Take charge of your healthcare today. Just use this or this to call United Healthcare about an AARP Medicare Supplement Plan.
Welcome back. The median age of first-time home buyers climbing to 36. Millennials have been called the unluckiest generation because they've experienced the slowest economic growth of any age group. Now, rising interest rates and higher asking prices for homes are limiting their buying power. But in Nashville, there is some encouraging news. Last month, prices went down and inventory went up compared to a year ago. Olivia Michaels has the details.
Melissa Patton and Sean Carson are in the market for a new home. It comes after Sean sold his home in just 12 days before moving in with Melissa.
Which puts us in a great, unique position really to do this, and that way it allows us some time to really find what we both want to try to get into.
Now, a new report by the Greater Nashville Realtors shows July inventory was up 10% compared to last year, and home prices saw a slight dip. While that should be good news for potential buyers, still sales dropped 13%. Several factors, including interest rates, may be to blame.
Especially with the prices being so high, you really want something to be just perfect for that cost.
We were getting people like, I'll just sell and I'll just buy something else. I'll just sell and I'll just buy something else. Now they're kind of more picky about what they're purchasing.
While many buyers may be hesitant to purchase a new home, Realtor Amanda Peterson cautions against waiting for a drop in interest rates.
Then the people that were on the fence, they're like, we're looking and we're ready to jump. We're pre-approved, we're ready to go, but we want this small dip. All of them start coming.
Despite the drop in home prices, there's still a far cry from prices just 4 years ago.
Nashville's growing and growing and growing, which is wonderful. We haven't seen the big economic shift that a lot of other states have seen and a lot of other areas have seen.
Which is why Peterson recommends the guidance of a professional to navigate the ever-changing market. Melissa and Sean agree.
You can't do it on your own. You don't know what exists out there, so having some intel to what is available on the market is wildly helpful.
Reporting in Nashville, I'm Olivia Michael.
Coming up next, NOAA's prediction for this year's hurricane season. We'll be right back.
Why didn't I try medication sooner? I guess I thought my anxiety would just go away. Hers changed everything. They connected me with a provider who got where I was coming from. Now, I finally feel like myself again. Get started today at forhers.com.
How long have you been tracking the value of our car? Should we sell it?
We hold.
Our low mileage is paying off. You think we should?
Hold.
Now!
I'm on it.
Already sold to Carvana.
Go to Carvana and track your car's value today.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No, there's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-339-7996 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-339-7996 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-339-7996. That's 800-339-7996. 800-339-7996.
I'm Del Walters, and this is The Debrief.
nearly 40 million Americans on alert.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive.
Scripps News brings you reporting from across the country
in downtown Baltimore, live in Maricopa County,
and around the world.
The counteroffensive is likely to kick off.
Scripps News, London.
With up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
We'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll-free. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. So hurricane season has been pretty quiet so far, but the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has been doubling its prediction for the remainder of the season. National correspondent Clayton Sandell has more on the updated forecast and what you can expect.
Peak hurricane season is right around the corner, and it may be a lot busier than first expected. Forecasters at NOAA now predict the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season will go from normal to above normal, calling for up to 21 named storms, 6 to 11 hurricanes, with as many as 5 becoming major hurricanes, with destructive winds above 111 miles per hour. NOAA says the numbers are going up in part because of the record warm Atlantic Ocean that provides more energy for hurricanes to form and intensify, and El Niño conditions, which can shift the jet stream and help stop hurricanes from forming, just aren't as strong this year. The threat of more hurricanes comes less than a year after Ian slammed into southwest Florida, killing 156 people and causing $113 billion in damage. Places like Fort Myers Beach are still in recovery mode.
Complete destruction. Everything, that I knew as a kid, driving around on my bike all the time, all the landmarks are gone. All the houses are gone.
Climate scientists say as humans heat the planet, hurricanes are changing. And while the raw number of storms may not be increasing, the data shows they are getting stronger.
Hurricanes are likely to produce more rain, about 2 to 10%. They are likely to have more intense winds, about 3 to 11%, and the storm surge associated with them is likely to be greater because the sea level rise will set the background for more storm surge along coastal regions.
While there's no predicting how many hurricanes will strike land this season, NOAA is urging people to be ready, get emergency supplies, and have a plan in place early.
Last year, we had 8 hurricanes that formed after the 1st of September. So the message now is to prepare now while it's quiet.
National correspondent Clayton Sandell reporting for us there. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including details on the push to reach more veterans in need of benefits, the new deadline that's looming in the PACT Act. We'll explain next.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica Cruz. Let's get you caught up right now in the day's top stories. Cadaver dogs have a lot of ground left to cover as they search for wildfire victims in Maui right now. A Hawaiian police chief says they've only searched 3% of the area. So far, there are 96 confirmed deaths. Plaintiffs have sued Hawaiian Electric, claiming damage would have been reduced if the utility had shut off power. Hawaiian Electric says it doesn't have that capability. The democratically elected president of Niger could go on trial just weeks after he was ousted in a coup. Last night on state TV, members of Mohamed Bazoum's presidential guard who overthrew him said he will be prosecuted for high treason, and that crime carries the death penalty in Niger. The former president has called on democratic nations, including the United States, to intervene. A battle over Alabama congressional redistricting returned to a federal courtroom today. The U.S. Supreme Court ordered the state to draw maps with a second majority black district, but the new map doesn't include one. Liberal groups are challenging it in court. The redrawn district is 40% black versus 30% in the original district. So as the country waits to see whether former President Trump will face a fourth indictment, President Biden is facing more scrutiny right now from Republicans. Political correspondent Kevin Cirilli takes a closer look at the special counsel investigation into Hunter Biden's business dealings.
Call it the summer of scandals, as now scandals for both the current president and the former president are on a collision course to impacting the 2024 race. For President Biden, it comes as House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has left the door open for an impeachment inquiry to happen sometime in the fall. This as Republicans continue to investigate the current occupant of the White House for his business dealings led by his son Hunter when Biden served as vice president in the Obama administration. Separately from that, Biden is also facing legal scrutiny for his handling of classified documents that he turned over when asked to do so while serving as vice president during the Obama administration. Separately from that, the former president staring down a potential fourth indictment this week in Georgia. Take a listen to what he said over the weekend when asked about it.
Well, I'll have to take a look at the order. The whole thing is a fake. It was put out by Biden, and they put it out because they can't win an election the fair way. It's all called election interference. Biden put it out because he can't win the fair way. He's way down in the polls.
It remains unknown how independent and moderate voters will judge the indictments and legal scrutiny for Biden and Trump, despite large, overwhelming skepticism that the electorate does not want to see a rematch of 2020 and 2024. Thus said, when you look at issues that have so far dominated previous election cycles, everything from the economy to jobs to social issues, including the recent overturning of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court, have motivated voters far more than any of their potential legal woes. What remains unknown is whether the groundbreaking indictments by Trump will have any impact, let alone in a general election, in a primary. Reporting from Washington, Kevin Cirilli, Scripps News.
President Biden signed the PACT Act a year ago. It expanded health and disability benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. A recent technical glitch frustrated some vets who are trying to apply. National correspondent Maritza Giorgio says there's a new deadline that vets and their families should know about.
We need everybody.
This was the scene on Capitol Hill 1 year ago when veterans advocates, including comedian Jon Stewart and activist John Feal, fought to get the PACT Act across the finish line.
You want to do it here? Let's dig a giant pit, 10 acres long, and burn everything in Washington with jet fuel. And then let me know how long they want to wait before they think it's going to cause some health problems.
Congress got it done after a brief stalemate. President Biden signed the Heath Robinson Honoring Our PACT Act last August, which expands health care benefits for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits.
When you burn plastics, when you burn metals, when you do all these things and then you're inhaling them, of course your body is not going to react like it's supposed to.
Burn pits were a primitive answer to get rid of heaps of garbage in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Think batteries, human waste, chemicals, and more. Cindy Amon was one of the millions of veterans exposed to the pits, but the VA initially denied her claims.
I started fighting for my compensation.
The PACT Act ensures veterans like Amon get automatic coverage for 23 illnesses linked to exposure without having to prove how they got sick. Now, the same people who pushed to get the PACT Act to the president's desk are trying to get another message out.
Hundreds of thousands of folks have applied for expanded care and benefits under the law. But we got to make sure more veterans know that they can apply. That's why I wanted to flag two big PACT Act deadlines coming up.
There's no deadline to get PACT Act benefits, but there is now an extended deadline of August 14th to qualify for retroactive benefits going back to last year. It was extended because of technical issues with the VA website.
My husband was sick.
Carrie Wiener's husband Robert died of lung cancer after exposure to burn pits. The VA rejected covering his care, and she was at first hesitant to reapply for help.
There has been a mistrust that has built up over the years. That's why this change in the VA administration and the way that they're approaching it, and all the VSOs and the MSOs, the way they're approaching it, is a real difference.
After calling TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, she reapplied and received benefits going back to her 2010 denial.
I finally feel like I'm going to be okay. And I feel supported and validated.
Help from TAPS is available at 800-959-8277 or at taps.org/PACTACT, or you can go to va.gov/PACT. Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News.
Developing now, 6 former Mississippi law enforcement officers have pleaded guilty in state court today to torturing 2 black men during a racist attack in January. The defendants, all white, called themselves the Goon Squad. Prosecutors say they entered a house without a warrant and assaulted the 2 men with stun guns, a sex toy, and other items. Prosecutors say they shot 1 man in the mouth, uttered racial slurs, and planted evidence. The defendants have pleaded guilty in a separate federal civil rights case. Well, as a new school year gets underway, memories of school shootings are fresh for many students. Coming up next, the efforts some districts are making to help kids feel safer. Plus, a growing problem in schools right now across the country that's changing the landscape of education. We're going to talk about the consequences of chronic absenteeism next.
Get customizable furniture at joybird.com that complements your art, your green thumb, or just you. Save up to 40% off select bestsellers. Plus, get free design services at joybird.com.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. And rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed Acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes, your acceptance is guaranteed and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
During my time reporting from the front lines in Ukraine, I witnessed the extraordinary spirit of everyday people. No surrender. Wednesday night at 10/9 Central, only on Scripps News.
A Gallup poll shows 1 in 5 grade school parents say their children have expressed concerns about feeling safe at school. National correspondent Dan Grossman reports on the way school districts across the country are trying to create a safer environment.
With the fall school semester having already started or soon to get underway, school safety is top of mind, and what to do in case of a school shooting has become a regular part of planning. Last year, there were 47 school shootings. That is just shy of the previous year's 52 and significantly higher than the 2 years before that. However, those numbers are lower partially because students were in virtual learning due to the pandemic. The deadliest school shooting from last school year was at a private Christian school in Nashville, where the gunman shot through glass to be able to get access inside.
Evil has come here today.
Since the Nashville shooting in March, Tennessee lawmakers approved $230 million for enhanced safety and mental health help. Districts in other states are allowing certain staff members to carry guns on campus or installing collapsible bulletproof rooms. And in some places, resource officers are back to walking school grounds. My Scripps News colleagues across the country are closely following this.
I'm Russell Haythorne in Denver, where armed officers will return to Denver Public Schools this fall for the first time in 3 years. Denver Public Schools ended its relationship with the DPD back in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and defund the police movement. But after a series of shootings here at East High last winter, officers are now returning to the schools.
I'm Stephanie Susskind in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Sunshine State is home to one of the deadliest school shootings in recent years, happening just to our south in Broward County. And that prompted dozens of state laws related to school safety. Palm Beach County School Police continue to add layers of security. Things like having only one entry point, a verification system to make sure all visitors are approved, at least one officer on every campus, locked doors, and employees now wear a panic alarm badge that was introduced last year.
I'm Nakia Simon in Waco, Texas. Many students this year will now be walking into a school with added security, which includes metal detectors, increased canine visits, and a stronger enforcement of student ID badges. Most importantly, they must wear clear backpacks on campus.
While K through 12 grade campuses have seen the vast majority of shootings, higher education is not immune to the threats of violence. People were shot at Michigan State University. 3 of them died. Since then, the governor of Michigan has taken several steps toward more gun control. Those include universal background checks as well as stricter red flag laws, 2 things that are highly politicized nearly everywhere in our country. Dan Grossman, Scripps News.
With students across the country either already starting school or getting ready to go back, one noticeable trend continues: fewer students attending in person. Coming out of the pandemic, more and more students have become chronically absent. Studies have found the absences don't correlate with COVID rates, but rather other reasons, including finances, anxiety, bullying, safety, staffing shortages.
Chronic absenteeism has at least doubled nationwide. In some places, it's increased even higher because there's a lot of local variation. If you're looking at the signs, you start to see it happening. And chronic absence is an early warning sign that kids might not re-enroll the following year.
Andrew Spar is the president of the Florida Education Association and joins us now live. Andrew, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today. Explain to us how big of an issue this has become across the country.
Well, what we see here in Florida is that same thing of what you just reported on, that kids are not coming to school because they feel they're being bullied. They may not feel safe. We have a massive teacher and staff shortage in Florida and across this nation. So when they come to school, there's often substitutes. So they decide they'll go home instead. So there's a lot of reasons I think that contributed to it. But I think the biggest reason that we haven't really dealt with in an effective way so far has been the mental health around our students since COVID. It was a traumatic event for not just kids, but for adults as well. And I don't know that we've really invested in making sure that our students are getting the support and services they need to be successful at school and in life.
And I want to talk more about that in just a moment, but I also want to dig deeper into what the consequences are. What are the long-term consequences that chronic absenteeism might cause, not really just for the students, but on society as a whole?
Well, certainly when students are not in school, they're not learning. And we also know that sometimes when students are in school, they tend to, there's an increase in juvenile crimes that occur and stuff like that. So I think having kids in school is vitally important. And then making sure they're getting that education. At the end of the day, our democracy, our communities are built on a strong public education system. And so we want to make sure that kids are there getting the education they deserve and need. And when they're not showing up, what are we doing to address that? For example, here in Florida, it's very common when kids get a certain number of absences, somewhere around 10 in the course of the year, that they'll get a visit from a school social worker. Well, we don't have enough school social workers right now in Florida. So then they get backlogged and it's hard to track students who aren't attending.
So which communities or demographics seem to be the most affected in these instances, and why?
Well, it tends to be in our poorer schools the most, although we are seeing it across the board right now. And again, I think poverty drives some of the issues that come up, of whether or not a kid has clothes that they feel comfortable in, or clean clothes, whether or not they have the resources to buy breakfast or lunch, or get a breakfast or lunch at school. And then, of course, if that leads to bullying, then they're less hesitant to, or more hesitant rather, to come to school because of that.
Yeah, and I wanted to go ahead and talk more about the mental health aspect, as we both discussed at the beginning of this interview, because some kids are saying, like you just mentioned, they're scared to go to school. Now, in the report that we were just watching, we were talking a little bit about gun safety measures, the implementation of metal detectors, the implementation of clear backpacks in the school. Short of this, what else are schools doing to make sure that kids feel safer, and what are they doing to address the issues with mental health?
Well, I think that's part of the struggle, because we're not consulting with the experts. We're not consulting with teachers and staff and administrators on what we should be doing to support students and making sure they feel safe. We're not consulting with parents either. And so, I do worry about everything that's happening in our schools right now. My youngest daughter just started high school here in the state of Florida today. And so obviously when I dropped her off this morning, she's very excited about being at school, starting a new experience at high school. But of course, as any parent, I worry about making sure that she is safe at school. I do believe our schools are overwhelmingly safe, but when you have teacher and staff shortages, it certainly impacts the safety at school. And then, of course, making sure that, as we talked about a little bit, dealing with the mental health of our kids, making sure that kids feel loved and supported. And in Florida in particular, there's so many laws being passed right now that actually counter that. I worry that with all of these constant drills, yes, we want kids to be prepared, but at what point are these drills actually having impact on their psyche, on their psychological reaction, because there's always an emergency drill? What if there is an active shooter? We have active shooter drills. We have bomb threat drills. And so there's a host of drills we're now doing in schools that I also think work in two ways. One, they help kids be prepared, but the other way is, if we're not dealing with it, they're putting kids in a mindset that they should be concerned.
No, I have a 10-year-old, and he is scared of the shooting drills, the active shooter drills, which is what I think that you're probably alluding to. But the question remains, what is the solution to all of this? How much is the teacher shortage impacting all of this? And why aren't parents more involved in this conversation?
But we've got to get parents involved in the conversation. I think the teacher and staff shortage is a huge factor in this. And I think the solution is investing in our schools, right? We have to have more school counselors, more school psychologists, more school social workers, so that we're identifying kids or families that may be in crisis and getting them the support and resources they need to be successful. I also think we need to make sure that school is a place where all kids feel welcomed and loved and supported, so that if a child is dealing with some kind of bullying or some kind of psychological crisis, that they're able to go to someone, to speak to that trusted individual and get the support they need. And then, of course, parents and teachers have a sacred bond. We need to protect that sacred bond. There needs to be constant communication between parents and the school, between teachers and parents, making sure that we really are engaging in dialogue around how students are doing and if we're seeing any warning signs whatsoever.
And Andrew, these are all great ideas, and I'm going to have to let you go. But I think the biggest question here is where the money comes from. You know, because obviously you're saying that investments in education need to take place, but where does the money come from? I'm out of time. Andrew Spar is the president of the Florida Education Association. Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, what may be the biggest thing to ever happen to soccer in the United States? How Lionel Messi has been elevating the sport in this country. We're going to talk more about that next.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945. Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Will you pause it real quick? Just sold the car to Carvana.
What? All I had to do was answer a couple of questions and got a real offer in seconds. Then they just picked up the car and paid me right on the spot.
Sell your car at Carvana.com today.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is Endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Act now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-588-2580 now.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
Get the stories that will shape each day,
Definitely a lot of folks talking about this.
so you can get on with yours. Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central, only on Scripps News.
World Cup soccer fans may be looking for a fix after the U.S. women's team's early exit and no upcoming Men's World Cup until 2026. But soccer fans don't have to look far to feel the buzz around Lionel Messi's arrival to Major League Soccer. Sports contributor Paul Crane has more now on how one of the game's greatest players is creating Messi mania.
Lionel Messi is one of the greatest soccer players ever, but his joining Inter Miami of Major League Soccer may be the biggest thing to ever happen to the sport in this country. Lionel Messi has wasted no time changing the fortunes of his new team and new league. Messi was one of the greatest players ever before he led Argentina to a World Cup championship last year.
The group now that won the Copa America, that won the World Cup, younger group, they don't see Messi as a normal teammate. They see him as a deity almost, and they play for him. They're not playing next to him, they're playing for him. And this Inter Miami group, straight away, I think has kind of locked into that idea.
Inter Miami was winless in its previous 11 MLS matches before Messi's arrival. Now they are a force to be reckoned with and one of the most sought-after tickets in the sport.
How important is it that Messi not only came to the MLS, but came to a team like Inter Miami and in a place like South Florida?
I don't know if there's anywhere else that he would have been as motivated to come to the league for. We've seen Miami be a market in professional sports in the U.S. that is driven by stars. Lionel Messi is the star of stars. I think it is the perfect fit.
Messi turned down hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis to play for David Beckham's Inter Miami team. His 2.5-year deal is for $150 million plus equity in the team and added money from Adidas and Apple.
Apple TV, they're going to be incredibly happy because now their streaming service in some parts of the world, Apple's not the dominant factor that it is here in the US. The Google search of Inter Miami versus Dallas was the largest search term yesterday worldwide. These are places that MLS hasn't been.
World soccer stars have been few and far between in the United States. The great Pelé came to the North American Soccer League in the mid-1970s, and David Beckham to the LA Galaxy in the mid-2000s. But Lionel Messi is the one with a chance to take the sport in the States to a place those other stars could only dream about.
Right now, he is just so special, and I hope that all sports fans in the United States understand what they're seeing. I mean, the only comparison I have in my lifetime is that last season, The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan at that time. This is like that right now. And we'll see how long it can last for him in Miami and just all of the effects we're going to get from this.
Inter Miami is unbeaten since Messi's arrival, and he scored 8 goals in 5 matches as they head to the semifinals of the League's Cup Tuesday night. And who knows? Depending on what happens the next 2 years, maybe, just maybe, Messi would play in one more World Cup when it comes back to the United States and North America in 2026. Paul Crane, Scripps News.
I have got a 10-year-old soccer player at home, and he would be so excited for that. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. Great to be with you. I'm Veronica Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget that you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. Don't go too far.
Wounded Warrior Project has been with me every step of my journey.
Aaron, how you doing, bud? With experiences that help me realize that I'm not alone.
And specialized programs that give me the tools to train my body and mind.
Now, it's possible for me to get back out there.
To get out of my comfort zone and try new things.
To build and be part of a community that supports other warriors.
It's possible to get the help I need for me and my family.
I got my confidence back. I'm setting goals and I'm achieving them.
It's possible to feel understood, whether it's day one or 20 years down the road, they've got your back.
And as each warrior's needs evolve, Wounded Warrior Project is adapting to meet them.
Because when we pull together,
it's possible to go further than you ever imagined.
How does Klein Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Spector.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you today. Welcome to Scripps News Live. At least 96 people now dead in the wildfires that have devastated Maui. They are now the country's deadliest in the past 100 years. Hundreds of people remain missing, and crews have been working around the clock to find them. The Maui police chief says cadaver dogs have searched only 3% of the affected area. The historic town of Lahaina seeing the worst damage. Our meteorologist Scott Withers is about 35 miles away in Kula. He has more on the response so far.
There are still wildfires burning here on the Hawaiian island of Maui. Right behind me, one ripped right through here. We're in Kula, Hawaii. It destroyed one of these cabins here at this resort. No injuries or deaths associated with this fire. Across the island in Lahaina, that's where all the search and rescue, and unfortunately the death toll is climbing. The governor says it's going to continue to climb. The police chief saying they are going as quick as they can in that search effort, but they have to do it with respect because they're searching for members of their family and their friends.
Hollow shells of former homes, twisted metal, piles of ash.
You'll walk down some of these streets and you don't even recognize which street you're on anymore. It's just like all this just chaos and mayhem.
The chaos trapping residents on those streets, fearing for their lives.
We have to go! We have to go!
This family surviving the horror, jumping into the ocean, waiting for help as the fire rages around them.
Whoosh! Whoosh, it was coming down the hill like I watched 2 churches burn. I watched the Salvation Army burn.
Joseph Bilodeau rode out of town on his scooter as the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history incinerated his home.
There's nothing to go back to. There's nothing to dig through, sift through. It's just ashes.
Joseph and residents throughout Lahaina say they had no warning. The government acknowledges none of the 80 emergency sirens on the island were activated. There's an investigation to find out why. But there was a warning almost a decade ago. A study by the Hawaiian Wildfire Management Organization found Lahaina was in extreme risk from wind-driven wildfires. The fire last week started near the water plant, exactly where the study warned there'd be an extreme risk. FEMA estimates the wildfire damaged or destroyed 2,200 homes, another 500 businesses and buildings, more than 2,000 acres charred.
It's going to also be a natural disaster. It's going to take an incredible amount of time to recover from.
Recovery crews slowly and solemnly walking through the burned-out shells of homes, trying to find the remains of those who couldn't escape. Cadaver dogs taking short breaks before heading back out into the disaster zone.
You can only go as fast as that animal can go. So we're bringing in more. We're going to go fast, but we're only going to go as fast as we can go.
The police chief has asked for another dozen dogs to help speed up the search, which has only cleared a small percentage of the town.
That is going to be a very long time before tourism returns, of course, to anywhere near the levels it was in West Long Island.
Thousands of tourists fleeing at the airport, those planning vacations being urged to cancel. The island can't support them. FEMA estimating it's going to cost almost $6 billion and years to rebuild.
2 tropical systems now moving through the Pacific on the exact same path that Hurricane Dora took last week. One of them, a powerful hurricane. They're both going to stay below the Hawaiian Islands, but there is concern that as they get close, one of them could spin up some strong winds directed right here towards this island, and that is not what they need as the search and recovery efforts are underway.
All right, Scotty Withers reporting for us there from Kula, Hawaii. Scotty, thanks. So people on Maui, in the meantime, have been helping one another as crews search for those who are still missing. National correspondent Dan Grossman takes a closer look at the inspiring energy of islanders who've called Maui home.
There is a unique might to the power of Mother Nature in Hawaii. It is felt with each crashing wave, with each incinerated home.
Okay.
And it's only matched.
What are you doing right now, man?
What are we doing? We're taking supplies out to Lahaina from the east side.
By the might of human nature, innate to those who call this place home.
Working together is the way to do it. This is Maui. We're operating from a different way.
We got 3 truckloads ready to rock, and we're ready to get this to them.
Thousands of people remain displaced by the fires that rip through historic Lahaina, Maui's upcountry and its southern landscapes. But for everything the flames took, Maui's people were able to give back. By day's end Sunday, electricity and internet had been restored to parts of Lahaina, supplies had been delivered en masse, and people started to feel a glimmer of hope that could only come from each other.
We all have this really strong, in Olelo, it's called pilina. It's building this sense of connection and community that we all have with each other.
We found Thomas Baum volunteering at one of the shelters on Maui. He says several of his friends have no home, no clothes, yet they are only focused on the blessing that they are still here. A sentiment shared by not just them.
It wasn't in the forefront of the conversation. It wasn't, look at me, I lost all my shit. It was, look at what we have. We have this beautiful thing. We have this opportunity to malama each other, which is like care for each other. This opportunity to step up and really be there for our neighbors and build our community stronger.
When disaster strikes, we tend to refer to those affected as saying they lost everything.
Stand together, kui. We got to get in there to our friends and relatives and help them.
At least here, those who have lost everything but each other. Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Maui.
So it's going to take a significant amount of time and money to help the people of Maui recover. Our parent company, EW Scripps, is supporting that effort through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen in order to donate and help make a difference for the people there. Developing now, all eyes on Georgia this week and a possible 4th indictment for former President Donald Trump. The Fulton County grand jury that will make that decision will hear from at least 2 more witnesses tomorrow. One is the state's former lieutenant governor, Jeff Duncan. The other is independent journalist George Cheedy. Now, if you drive by the Fulton County Courthouse in Atlanta right now, you're going to see orange barricades and a whole lot of law enforcement surrounding the area. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis has said that charges against Trump could be decided by this Friday. So security in the area remains high right now in anticipation of Trump's possible 4th indictment. Let's get you right out to national correspondent Alexa Liaku, who joins us now live from outside of the Fulton County Courthouse there in Atlanta. So Alexa, I do see all of the police cars in the area right now. How else have they been preparing for this?
Yeah, a lot of security measures in place. Actually, DA Fonnie Willis has security outside of her private residence, as well as, of course, here, her workplace. She has told us that her employees are also going to be working remote for the first 3 weeks of August to make sure that everybody stays safe. Out here, though, we've seen no disturbances other than a protest regarding something else today. We had some protesters here who were probably trying to take advantage of all the local media cameras that were here. Police moved them along, and it's been relatively quiet. But there are some concerns that this potential indictment here in Georgia could have some different security issues come with it. We talked to an Emory law professor to get her take.
In Atlanta, security is tight outside the Fulton County Courthouse as the nation sits waiting to hear what charges the former president could face.
I think that it would
be irresponsible to not prepare for the worst.
Andra Gillespie, a law professor at Emory University in Atlanta, says the security here looks similar to what we've seen for previous indictments, and she hopes the response will be the same here too.
There are some people who show up. There have been shouting matches, but thankfully we have not seen violent outbursts. And so I pray that that is the same thing that we're going to experience here.
In Atlanta, the road in front of the courthouse building is closed to traffic. Orange barricades and metal barriers line the street. And officers from both the sheriff's and marshal's offices have a visible presence. Bomb-sniffing dogs also came to check media cars. So far, no reports of protests or violence, but many believe that could change if or when charges come down. But why? First, DA Fani Willis and her team have received numerous threats from the public. So many, Willis warned her prosecutors to, quote, stay alert. Then, last Tuesday, Trump himself lashed out at Willis at a campaign rally, calling her a, quote, young racist in Atlanta. Gillespie says this is similar language used against special counsel Jack Smith and New York DA Alvin Bragg.
That, in some ways, is the X factor. That's the unknown. That when you have a president who makes intemperate comments against a prosecutor who is prosecuting a case against them, that might actually incite somebody to do something that would be ill-considered. And so we pray that that isn't the case.
One difference in Georgia, the Fulton County Sheriff says he is prepared to take a mugshot of the former president, which Gillespie says could draw a reaction from the public.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who gather there. I think the big question is, do you see counter protests? And I think that there would be lots of disincentives for people to have counter protests. I think people who, support the possibility of an indictment against President Trump are not necessarily going to express that by actually showing up in person and putting themselves in a position where there would be a counter protest.
And despite Georgia being a state with more relaxed gun laws and a large number of voters who may arrive to support the former president, Gillespie believes law enforcement in Atlanta is prepared.
So even if you were in a state with very strict gun laws, you should still do everything that Georgia, Florida, Washington, D.C., and New York have done to try to mitigate the possibility that there would be some type of violent outburst. It's just the most responsible thing to do.
And we also didn't see any huge violence. We did see some protesters in those other indictments across the country. But again, here still pretty quiet. We did see those bomb-sniffing dogs come through, check out all the media vehicles again this morning. But again, not too much action here, luckily. In a brief moment of levity, one of our producers was walking through the scene and he said he did hear some of the police officers joke a little bit about how much overtime they're going to get working as far as this indictment stretches out this week. We do expect charges to come down rather soon, but have still not received a final date on when that may happen.
Yeah, and to your point, with the crush of media, the crush of law enforcement that have been surrounding that courthouse, you do wonder what the impact is, because this is such a huge case. So you wonder if it's backing up the court calendar at all, or if things really are business as usual. Are you seeing people going in and out of that courthouse normally?
We are seeing people going in and out of the courthouse. We did hear that some of the cases were moved, and as far as all the legal proceedings, we did hear that the calendar was a little bit shifted around to make sure that things were a little bit calmer here. But we have seen people here going in, going to work, people asking us, hey, where do I go? I need to go to this court case. So business does appear to be going as usual, but it is pretty calm, and we do know that some of the court calendar was shifted to make accommodations, as well as those extra security accommodations will be in place until September 1st.
All right, Alexa Liarco reporting live from the Fulton County Courthouse there in Atlanta. Thank you so much for the update. So to come on Scripps News Live, for some inner city kids, college isn't an option. But a Cleveland man wants them to learn how to build a successful future. We're going to show you how his program works after a quick break.
This year, Americans will spend $41 billion on auto repairs.
That's right, billions with a B. Why is that number so high? Because cars break down. Your vehicle is going to end up in a shop like this too, and if it's no longer under warranty, you're the one who has to pay the bill, and it could cost you thousands of dollars. That is, unless you call CarShield. With a plan through CarShield, administrators will pay for those costly repairs directly to the mechanic of your choice, including dealerships. That means you get protection on major parts and systems like the engine, transmission, electrical systems, and more. Plus, 24/7 emergency services for flat or damaged tires, lockouts, dead batteries, and towing at no additional cost. And there are even rental car options to keep you on the road.
I've been a mechanic for 35 plus years now. I've seen thousands of repairs over the years. My happiest customers are the ones that come in do have some kind of auto protection policy that's going to cover the repair that they wasn't expecting anyway. I feel great about recommending CarShield to everybody I see.
CarShield has a rich history of dependability, reliability, and success, and has been featured on leading networks like ABC, CNN, Fox News, and more. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company.
My mom told me to call CarShield, and I saved $5,000. You should always listen to your mom.
As soon as my car broke down, CarShield jumped into action, and I had my car back within days.
I've been with CarShield for close to 7 years. I have 3 vehicles covered, and I saved close to $9,000.
I called CarShield and saved over $5,000.
Yes, CarShield is a good value. Every plan through CarShield comes with a price lock guarantee, which means no matter how many repairs you need, the price you pay today will never change for as long as you cover your car.
Call now and save money with your price lock guarantee. It's not a matter of if your car will break down, but when. Call CarShield now before it's too late. Call 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264. 800-287-5264.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
The Federal Reserve won't meet until next month, but that hasn't stopped speculation of what it might do. The general consensus is the Fed will refrain from raising a key interest rate again. Right now, the 5.5% interest rate is the highest in 22 years. The Fed's goal is to reduce inflation to 2%. Right now, it stands at 3.2%. So another potential interest rate hike isn't the only bad news if you're out there and you're shopping for a home. Construction companies are dealing with a labor shortage at a time when demand is high. Kate Hussey with Scripps News West Palm Beach explains that delays in construction might mean more expensive homes.
At a construction site in Fort Pierce, workers with Garcia & Sons put the finishing touches on a new project. One of many they've recently taken on amid the exponential growth across the Treasure Coast.
There's double digits moving, daily to Port St. Lucie, so it's been crazy.
That's normally a good thing for Juan Moya, but lately he can't find enough workers to keep up with that demand.
It is hard to find new skilled laborers. That's the key word. Skilled laborers, it's scarce.
It's a problem for Greg Batista, too. His South Florida engineering and construction company impacted by the recent exodus of undocumented workers.
You have a lot of workers, especially in the roofing, in the landscaping, in the tile installation, labor work, roofing, that are, a lot of them are Hispanics, and they're they've come in from other places. I've seen my workforce be affected also.
That shortage coming on the heels of a shortage in construction materials too, the effects of which are still lingering.
I had 2 jobs, large jobs, when they say, look, the materials went up 10, 20%. We don't have the supply.
According to the Home Builders and Contractors Association of Florida Space Coast, the labor and construction material shortage is now pushing back projects by at least 3 months, while jacking up the cost of a new home by 20% or more.
Exactly. So, as most businesses, they have to increase their prices, to keep up.
Juan telling me he's had to increase prices by 30 to 60% just to keep up with insurance hikes from delayed jobs, the inflation of materials, materials, and increases in salaries to retain and recruit good workers.
It's all over the place, but all we could do is accommodate to the times.
Still, he and Batista stay positive. The one message they drove home: foundations may be set in stone, but the economy and its impact on construction never is.
Fortunately, we are able to show the client and, be transparent.
In Fort Pierce, Kate Hussey, Scripps News.
Well, the 3-month-old writers' strike continues to paralyze Hollywood and new film and TV production. The Writers Guild of America now evaluating a counter-proposal it received from the Hollywood studios and producers on Friday. Right now, there is no movement in talks with the actors union. Both actors and writers are seeking better pay, improved residual payments, and protections against the rising use of artificial intelligence. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, we're going to take a closer look at the need for an accurate count of extreme heat-related deaths. The changes one widow wants to see enacted. And don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
Wounded Warrior Project helps post-9/11 veterans realize what's possible. With generous community support, we bring warriors together and empower them to become stronger inside and out.
It's possible to begin healing, to get the help you need,
to find peace. And as each warrior's needs evolve, so do we. Because these last 20 years are just the beginning.
During my time reporting from the front lines in Ukraine, I witnessed the extraordinary spirit of everyday people.
As a mother, I have to show the good example.
Putting their lives on the line to defend their home.
War is not the task of one person. Our motto is always first, always forward.
No surrender. Ukraine's unsung heroes. Wednesday night at 10/9 Central, only on Scripps News.
And a quick reminder right here, we'd like to hear from you. You can give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. 23 minutes after the hour, I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Extreme heat is another weather event putting people at risk across the country right now. And getting an accurate picture of its impact is difficult because death certificates don't always reflect the role that it might play. Eugene Gates was a postal worker in Dallas who collapsed in a homeowner's yard this summer. He later died at the hospital. It was 98 degrees with a heat index of more than 110. His widow is waiting for the autopsy report, but she says that she already knows the cause.
I do know in my heart, and I believe this until the day I die, that it was heat related that caused my husband's death.
Carla Gates is pushing for legislation to better protect people who have to work outside. Experts say inconsistencies in how counties calculate heat deaths result in underreporting.
And you find that most of these deaths are not recorded as being due to the heat. About half are from cardiovascular causes. People, for example, dying of a heart attack who wouldn't have had a heart attack otherwise.
Experts say all heat deaths are preventable. They say a more accurate count of the deaths would lead to better early warning systems, and people at higher risk could be targeted for extra protection. In other news at this hour, according to research from the Brookings Institution, undergraduate enrollment dropped by 15% from 2010 to 2021, and it underscores the fact that not all high school students can or want to go to college. One Cleveland man's mission is to show young people how to build a successful future with a trade. Danita Harris with Scripps News Cleveland shares the story.
Inside this tiny rundown home on Cleveland's east side is a construction crew on a mission.
What is the key to doing a good floor?
You have to really focus, like, can't mess up.
A team of people, mainly kids, learning not only the trade, but also how to build their own successful futures.
I've been learning how to paint, installing sinks and toilets, and installing drywalls.
James Singleton is the founder of Building Stronger Individuals.
How long does it usually take?
About a minute.
About a minute? Dantes, you could do this in a minute?
Yeah.
In a minute, because then I want to hire you. I got some work I need to do in my house. Can I hire you?
Yeah.
Give me a high five. Boom, there it is, Dantes. The program was birthed from James' efforts to restructure his own life after a challenging childhood.
He graduated without being able to read, expected to go into society and be successful.
And because James couldn't read, he was unable to fill out job applications. The drug-infested neighborhood he grew up in showed him only one way to success.
I seen drugs as a way out. All the drug dealers in the neighborhoods were successful. They had the cars, they had the money.
So he sold drugs, got caught, and went to federal prison.
I came up with a plan when I was locked up that I wanted to start working on houses. In order for me to become better, I'm gonna have to face the most difficult thing in my life is learning how to read.
3 years after James walked out of prison, he put his plans into action.
I was able to go and get a property.
With a new foundation.
I became licensed and bonded.
To make it extremely safe for these kids, we're gonna kill all the power. There's no more power in the building.
James knew his hard work was just the beginning.
Well, if you're just changing the plug, remember it's just 25. Well, my program is kind of designed to be able to put my kids in a position to be able to generate money for themselves without having to go to the neighborhood drug guy, without having to pick a gun up.
Hasheen Thomas grew up with James, and he joined Building Stronger Individuals with his son.
Yeah, we grew up together in the same projects, selling drugs together, and then we just did it 360, seeing things better than the streets.
What do you love the most about what you're doing for these young people?
The excitement in the kids' faces.
Times 2.5, how much?
They just so excited about being able to learn something. The jewel for me in this program is to see the excitement on these young people's face.
That was Danita Harris reporting for us there from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including Native Hawaiians watching the wildfires from afar. They're finding ways to help their hometown. We're going to introduce you to one couple in Kansas City that are doing their part. We'll be right back.
Meet Pair Eyewear, the only glasses brand that lets you change your glasses like you change your clothes. With hundreds of designs, Pair makes it easy to match your style and build a collection you'll love. Shop now at paireyewear.com.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good. I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. And checking your credit score or bank statements may not be enough to alert you. That's because identity threats appear in more places than you realize. Identity thieves can use your information to open loans, transfer home titles, even commit crimes.
Someone stole my information and tried to buy a car in my name.
LifeLock monitors for threats to your identity, including ones you may miss, and alerts you if there's an issue. And if you're a victim, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All plans backed by LifeLock's $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I know LifeLock has me covered.
LifeLock, identity theft protection starts here. Call the number on your screen or visit lifelock.com/25now and use promo code 25now to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica Cruz. It's time now to get you caught up on the day's top stories. A Georgia grand jury may be issuing indictments against former President Trump and others this week. Jurors are examining evidence that Trump tried to overturn the state's 2020 election results. They will hear from at least 2 more witnesses tomorrow, including Georgia's former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Trump has already been indicted 3 times this year. A battle over Alabama congressional redistricting returned to a federal courtroom today. The U.S. Supreme Court ordered the state to draw maps with a second majority black district, but the new map doesn't include one. Liberal groups are challenging it in court right now. The redrawn district is 40% black versus 30% in the original district. Wildfires have killed at least 96 people in Maui. Sadly, that number is expected to climb. Cadaver dogs have yet to reach the majority of areas. Hawaii's governor says in Lahaina alone, the fire has destroyed 2,700 buildings. Losses are now estimated at $6 billion, and people on the island are still questioning what happened and what might come next.
I lost friends in there, they were going back to get their animals, when she died.
We're short on housing here. We just went through a nightmare and we're about to go through another nightmare trying to basically not stay homeless.
A lot of people on the island still can't believe that emergency sirens didn't warn them of the wildfires. There were mobile phone alerts and messages on TV and radio stations, but power outages and downed cell phone towers prevented them from reaching recipients. So most people on the U.S. mainland heartbroken by the video that they've been seeing come out of Maui. Abby Dodge with Scripps News Kansas City spoke with people with deep connections to the island.
So violent. I mean, there's fires and then there's that.
And there's nothing I can do, and there's this ache for that, and wishing somehow it could be different.
I mean, that was original. There's not 2 of those. There's not another one somewhere. It's just, that's gone.
The historic town of Lahaina, once home to Hawaii's kings and queens, transformed from the name of a city to the site of the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history, taking at least 93 lives.
All the roads and the shops and everything. You know it. It's like being in your hometown again.
Kelly and Marty Hackelman have been traveling to Hawaii since their honeymoon more than 20 years ago.
It's just like, just trying to get our heads around it.
Aching for those who call Hawaii home, like Dorinda Makala'o-Nalani Nicholson, who grew up on the islands, living in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor, now experiencing another tragedy from afar.
I want to be there, and I want to be there as a native, and that can talk Pidgin English, and that can talk the history.
While Dorinda has created her own paradise here in Kansas City over the years, her home is calling her back to help with aid already starting.
There will be many prayers, there will be many chants. The year 2023 will never be forgotten, and it will have a new history, and we will see what that will be.
Hoping the new history is connected to the old lands.
That is the spirit that I am praying for and know will come back because of all of us joining together.
You can support the relief efforts in Maui right now through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. Go ahead and scan the QR code that you see there on the bottom of your screen to donate, and you can help make a difference for the people of Maui. Developing now, 2 Nigerian men accused of running a global sextortion operation involving more than 100 victims were extradited to the United States. Prosecutors say one online encounter led to a teenager dying by suicide. Jamie Sherrod with Scripps News Grand Rapids spoke with that teenager's mother.
Jordan was an incredible young man. He loved to play sports. He played football. He played basketball. Just a real fun, loving kid.
Jennifer Buda says her son Jordan had a smile that drew people in, and he was friends with everybody. Sadly, the 17-year-old took his life after becoming a victim of sextortion.
So Jordan began talking to an individual on Instagram in the evening of March 24th, 2022. All of the details of the conversation, we don't know. They haven't been released to us. But there was exchange of images, and then the suspects allegedly asked Jordan for money.
She says they asked him for $1,000. He sent them $300, and they asked for more money.
Jordan at some point in the early morning hours of March 25th, 2022, said that he was going to kill himself. And the suspects told him, go ahead and kill yourself. And if you don't, I will make you do it.
The Nigerian nationals allegedly responsible, 22-year-old Samuel Ogashi and 20-year-old Samson Ogashi, were extradited to the U.S. Saturday after being indicted for an international sexual extortion ring. The extradition proceedings of a third defendant, 19-year-old Ezekiel Roberts, is underway.
The indictment alleges that these defendants targeted more than 100 victims, both minors and adults. One of the victims in this case was 17-year-old Jordan DeMay from Marquette, Michigan, who tragically took his life as a result of this crime.
The indictment includes 4 counts, including conspiracy to sexually exploit minors, conspiracy to distribute child pornography, and conspiracy to commit stalking through the internet. Samuel Ogashi is also charged with sexual exploitation and attempted sexual exploitation of a minor resulting in death, and could face up to life in prison. Nigerian officials have separately charged 3 other individuals who they say were a part of a larger criminal scheme.
So they're being transferred to the holding facility here in Michigan. They'll be in the custody of the U.S. Marshal Service. Tomorrow they'll have an initial appearance before a judge. We'll be informed of the charges against them.
Then they'll go to trial, although the timeline will depend on a judge.
I am very, very grateful to our government, our FBI, their counterparts in Nigeria, for the work that they did to make this happen and bring these individuals over here where they can, face our justice system with their charges. At the end of the day, though, none of it will bring my son back.
Jennifer is keeping her son's legacy alive with one of his favorite sayings.
One of the things that Jordan would say to people was, "I got you." So what we did is we created a logo, which is #I got you in capital letters.
The logo can be found on shirts, hats, and hoodie. The money raised will go towards a scholarship fund each year at Marquette Senior High School, where Jordan used to attend. Jennifer encourages parents to talk with their kids about the reality of sextortion so that this tragedy doesn't happen to them.
Please talk about it as a family. Have a plan in place if this does happen to your child. And just keep those lines of communication open to let them know that no matter what they do, they can come to you or another trusted adult for help if they get themselves into a situation like this.
I'm Jamie Sherrod for Scripps News.
6 former Mississippi law enforcement officers have pleaded guilty in state court to torturing 2 black men during a racist attack in January. The defendants, who are all white, called themselves the Goon Squad. Prosecutors say they entered a house without a warrant and assaulted the 2 men with stun guns, a sex toy, and other items. Prosecutors say they shot 1 man in the mouth, uttered racial slurs, and then planted evidence. The defendants have pleaded guilty in a separate federal civil rights case. Democratically elected president of Niger could go on trial just weeks after he was ousted in a coup. Last night on state TV, members of Mohamed Bazoum's presidential guard who overthrew him said that he will be prosecuted for high treason, and that crime carries the death penalty in Niger. The former president has called on democratic nations, including the U.S., to intervene. Still to come on Scripps News Live, a new solution to tackle the maternal mortality crisis in at least one state. And a reminder right here, you can find more online. ScripsNews.com is where you can check us out. Also on social media, on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads.
Behind the nightmares of war hide simple motivations.
An immediate concern is theft of grain.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat follow the costs and profits of the war in Ukraine, tracking the hidden network of Russian cargo ships, smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Scripps News and Bellingcat present Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey. Your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No, there's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-293-5789 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-293-5789 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-293-5789. That's 800-293-5789. 800-293-5789.
digging deeper into the headlines,
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
shedding light on groundbreaking investigations, and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
A new report is offering solutions to the maternal mortality rates impacting Florida. Rochelle Aline with Scripps News Tampa takes a closer look at how health officials and advocates are hoping to tackle this crisis.
When it comes to health outcomes for moms and babies in Florida, the numbers aren't great. According to this report, between 2013 and 2017, our state ranked 32nd for the highest maternal mortality rates. And data shows that if mom and baby are black or brown, the outcomes are even worse. But Friday, a researcher who helped craft this report told us that there are a few big ways that Florida could turn those numbers around. First up is by expanding the state's Medicaid program. The idea is that if you have access to covered health care and are healthier before, during, and after pregnancy, you and baby generally will have better outcomes.
If they did, they would increase coverage for a lot of individuals who currently fall into what we call the coverage gap.
That research team says Florida can also do a better job of educating people about the Medicaid Family Planning Waiver Program. It allows people who don't qualify for Medicaid to still access things like sex education, STI testing and treatment, health screenings, and other family planning services.
We see individuals who would be eligible who are not applying. And then we also see that even when individuals do enroll into these services, that they actually don't use the services.
Lastly, researchers say we need to make it easier for folks to access midwives and doulas, especially for those who don't need much medical intervention during birth.
We actually see that midwives provide care that is equivalent in terms of its efficacy, and then in terms of its safety, they actually have a safer profile, and that's with the caveat that midwives are really important for low-risk pregnancies.
In addition to providing education, a leader who helped oversee this project says this data will also be used by a maternal health coalition to help lobby for change.
And there's a very active coalition that's going to be moving forward on advocacy coming out of the research.
With students across the country already back in school or getting ready to go back, one notable trend does continue. Fewer students have been attending in person. Coming out of the pandemic, more and more students have become chronically absent. Now, studies have found that absences don't correlate with COVID rates, but rather other reasons, including finances, anxiety, bullying, and staffing shortages.
Chronic absenteeism has at least doubled nationwide. In some places, it's increased even higher because there's a lot of local variation. If you're looking at the signs, you start to see it happening. And chronic absence is an early warning sign that kids might not re-enroll the following year.
Educators and experts also say as a result of the pandemic, some parents and students have grown conditioned to staying home at the slightest sign of sickness. Well, Massachusetts has adopted $172 million in permanent funding to create a universal free school meal program. Public school students in kindergarten through high school do qualify, and lawmakers say that this could save families about $1,200 a year. It comes after the end of several pandemic-era meal benefits. National correspondent Alex Miller breaks it down.
It was one of a few signs of relief for families during the COVID crisis. Free breakfast and lunch for all public school students.
During the pandemic, the line for the free lunch and the free groceries was just down the street.
But after the program ended last September, millions of parents were back to picking up the tab, with many struggling to pay. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, the school district accumulated over $66,000 in student lunch debt in just 1 year.
I've seen students come in and say, I'm hungry, but grandma says I can't get breakfast today because we can't afford it anymore.
But this year, Michigan's public school students are back with free breakfast and lunches after state legislators passed a bill wiping all the debt clean. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, Michigan and Massachusetts now join 5 other states with mandatory universal school meal programs. 4 states have expanded access to free or reduced meals, while dozens of states are debating similar legislation. Many parents are reliant on one of the federal free or reduced meal programs, but only if their district opts in. If families earn too much to qualify but not enough to afford the bills, school districts say they're left with the tab.
Unfortunately, those funds would need to come from the general fund, which takes away some of the ability to spend those funds for other educational activities and experiences.
In May, one national survey found public schools have $262 million in unpaid meal debt and can't use federal funds to cut it down. The Education Data Initiative says over 30 million students are unable to afford breakfast or lunch. That puts individual debt at $180 per child a year, a price parents like Jennifer Resnick say they can't afford amid high inflation hitting other necessities.
Your rent has doubled, your mortgage has doubled, your electric bill has doubled, your car insurance just went up.
And meals might get more expensive this year, with the USDA expected to enforce rules to serve healthier yet pricier meals with less salt and sugar. If your child doesn't qualify for federal help this school year, administrators say it's best to reach out and see if there are local programs that work with food banks. Parents can also apply for a free or reduced price meal anytime during the year. Alex Miller, Scripps News.
One mother's search for the right place for her daughter led her to create a successful dance studio celebrating diversity. How it's helping students find their passion, straight ahead. And don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours as well, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be right back.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good. I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Attention anyone new to Medicare moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there's a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-769-1530. 800-769-1530. Attention anyone new to Medicare moving or losing coverage for any reason. You may qualify for a Medicare special enrollment period. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan with extra benefits. Did you know Medicare Part C is commonly called Medicare Advantage? If you qualify for an SEP, call now because there may be plans with extra benefits available that are not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. There are people who qualify for special enrollment but don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits not covered by original Medicare. Here's the good news. If you qualify, you can call now. We will check to see if there's a Medicare Advantage Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Call now to speak with a licensed insurance agent to see if you are eligible to enroll in a 2023 Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits like dental coverage or savings on prescription medications. You don't get these extra benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-769-1530. 800-769-1530.
Carvana has hundreds of thousands of five-star reviews and counting.
The whole process was really simple and easy, and this is my 3rd time selling to Carvana.
You just enter your license plate or your VIN, answer a few questions, boom, you get a reel off.
Sell your car to Carvana today.
I work at Lumi Deodorant, and I'm going to tell you how to get the best deal on Lumi. It's the starter pack. You pick 2 full-size deodorants, and you get 2 mystery items for free and free shipping. So now's your chance to try Lumi Whole Body Deodorant with 72 hours of odor control.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive
with up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
reminder right here, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline. That number is toll-free. It's on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. The NBA just welcomed 12 new members to the Basketball Hall of Fame over the weekend, and Dwayne Wade is one of them.
The first memory I have of holding a basketball was when I was 5 years old, and it wasn't love at first sight. But one thing I knew for sure was that something inside of me would come alive every time I had that ball in my hands.
Congratulations. Wade called his father to the stage at Saturday's induction ceremony, saying they'd made the Hall of Fame together. Wade played all but 2 of his seasons of his 16-year career with the Miami Heat, winning 3 world titles. Among the other members of this year's Hall of Fame class, Dallas Mavs great Dirk Nowitzki, also Spurs coach Greg Popovich. Congratulations to all. So last night, Damar Hamlin played in his first game since his heart stopped following a tackle that he made back in January. The Buffalo Bills safety thrilled home fans by suiting up for Saturday's preseason game against the Colts. Hamlin played a role in his team's victory. The Colts went on for the 4th and 1 in the first quarter, and Hamlin stopped the running back for no gain. Hamlin says that it is great to be back in his element.
I'm a winner.
One dance studio in Virginia is finding lasting success by offering students a variety of dance styles that reflect their own diversity. As part of National Black Business Month, our Amber Strong shares one mother's goal to find a place for her daughter.
It's been said that dancing is like dreaming for your feet. Well, this Virginia dance school is making those dreams reality and taking students from diverse backgrounds to some of the biggest stages in the country. In this practice room, there's ballet and contemporary, a little bit of breaking, and a lot of encouragement. The dancers as diverse as the styles. Founder Kalia Harris started the Ambiance Center for the Performing Arts after finding little diversity in area schools for her daughter Naya.
She started it so that I could see myself and have a place in the arts that was like all my own. When I was visiting places, they were saying, well, you know, people of color just don't put their children into, you know, extracurricular activities and things. And so I was like, I just don't think that's true.
10 years later, enrollment is up to 200 students, mostly through word of mouth.
This is a place where, you know, students of all different shapes and sizes and colors and genders can come and just be accepted and be safe.
Misty Copeland, the first principal ballerina in the history of the American Ballet Theater, has lamented the lack of diversity.
It weighs on you and it wears on you after a while. Something that I fought so hard for throughout the beginning of my career is that I didn't want to pancake my skin a lighter color to fit into the corps de ballet.
It's not just a lack of representation, it's the standards that some in the dance world say aren't inclusive.
Each of our dancers, no matter what their skin tone is, will find tights that will match their skin tone. When ballet was formed, it was not formed with us in mind, people of color, and so we have pink tights.
And while every style is welcomed, fundamentals are a requirement.
Tap, a little struggle, but I got into it. But ballet and contemporary, oh no, man.
It's one of those dance studios where it's not competitive at all. You do your dancing, I'll do mine.
Harris says she wants her students to love themselves, but also to be able to succeed on any stage in the world. And they have, with some going on to perform at the Kennedy Center and for legendary choreographer Debbie Allen. She also gives away dozens of scholarships to area kids yearly.
After COVID, I have personally seen more than ever that our children are hurting. So my heart is to be able to give back to the community.
Saying at the end of the day, it's about giving every child a sense of belonging.
I know that I'm just a dancer and I'm not carrying the responsibility of being the only Black dancer in the room.
Amber Strong, Scripps News, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
And I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. I will see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining us.